Good day, everyone. Welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. I'm Anna Spinskaya, and I'll be hosting today's program for you. In today's program, we get a chance to meet the music director of All-Strings Laureate Ensemble, which will be performing at the Carnegie Hall, Emil Chudnovsky. Our mission is in connecting musicians and artists in real time with their audiences and in great performances like the one you just heard, all from around the globe. Throughout the season, we host dozens of events aimed at helping musicians get forward with their own artistic and career goals. And for some musicians, the next steps could be performing at prestigious venues like Carnegie Hall, or to perform a concerto or aria with an orchestra, or to try out performing on a new age virtual stage. Maybe musicians are looking to win a scholarship to attend a masterclass or a summer program. We strive to provide all of these and many more other opportunities. Together with many of our collaborators, we work on those events. And just last weekend, we hosted the finals of the auditions for the performances at the Laureate Gala at the Carnegie Hall. And musicians were presenting their programs, which they aspire to play on the stage of the Carnegie Hall in front of the international judges. Those finals of the auditions were hosted by virtual concert halls and organized by Sundance Perceiver and progressive musicians, and they were aimed at taking musicians through the virtual stage to the Carnegie Hall stage. And during those auditions, we heard a lot of great musicians presenting their pieces and their compositions in front of the jury. All this is possible because of enormous effort by many people who work on these presentations, who work on organizing those events, who work on finding collaborators and, frankly, money and funds to be able to produce all of that. So we work with a lot of people on our team. You saw their names and faces on the previous screen. And now what you see on the screen is our wonderful hosts, myself included. And yes, I consider myself pretty wonderful. And Chris Au, James Welch, and joining us in New York for the in-depth interviews with the laureates and performers at the Carnegie Hall will be Steve Robinson. And we are blessed by great support and a lot of supporting energy and financial support, everything provided to us by dozens and dozens of organizations and wonderful people who lead those organizations with the missions which resonate with our own. And you see on the screen there's a lot of companies from all over the world which provide opportunities, awards, and many important things which musicians need in support towards their greatness and towards their development of the career. And we stream on all major social and video platforms. We are on YouTube, on Twitter, on Twitch, on Vimeo, on LinkedIn, on everything, on Facebook, what you see on Instagram. And we are also on many educational and music performance platforms, which are run by companies around the world. And I want to thank our wonderful team of musicians, producers, videographers, sound and audio engineers. And these are all musicians who also are performers and educators, and they have their own professional musical careers, and they also add energy and their time to help others on the same path, in the same direction. And now I would like to introduce our wonderful guest, violinist Emil Chudnovsky, who, well, frankly, his bio is too big to fit any description size and to fit this program too, but I'll just give you a quick overview. He has performed in a whole host of countries, including Great Britain, Italy, Israel, Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Japan, Argentina, Brazil, Ecuador, Colombia, Chile, Peru, Uruguay, Venezuela, United States, all over United States, of course. He's performed recitals and concerts with orchestras in many places, and I'm not going to even try to go through that list, including multiple appearances at the Carnegie Hall and Core Summer Festival, and it's a lot of events which host beautiful playing by violinist Emil Chudnovsky. He started concertizing at a very young age of 11 with a solo performance on Uruguay television in the concert on Montevideo Chamber Orchestra. This same year, he was featured in a series of live radio programs from the Mostly Mozart Festival in South Africa, and from then Emil's career as a performer, as an ensemble director, as a leader of the groups, and pedagogue, and many other aspects of his wonderful career and enormous energy put into music. And so he is everywhere, and now he is also with us, and he will be leading the All-Strings Laureate Ensemble in a 3-day intensive workshop in New York City, which will be on April 1st through 5th, culminating with the performance of that ensemble on the stage of the Weill Recital Hall at Carnegie Hall. Welcome, Emil. It is an enormously great pleasure to have you with us. Thank you for making time in your really busy schedule and for joining us here.
Thank you. That really glowing description makes me look around for who it is that.
It's you.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and that playing in the beginning was also you.
I have to say one thing about that playing. My manager had encouraged me to make short videos, which I still am sort of ambivalent about whether they're the right way to go. But taking the Brahms concerto, all 30 some odd minutes of it, and slicing it down to 90 seconds was a matter of 3 weeks work.
Yeah, you could probably learn another concerto in that
time. Exactly. No, but the amount of material that music offers in tiny fragments of time mean that as soon as I cut 5 seconds, I'm losing an entire thought, concept, paragraph, chapter,
Well, this is a long form, and Brahms unfortunately didn't know back then that there's going to be TikTok form of music. He probably could have written something for that.
Yeah. I'm sure he would have bemoaned that, and I would have been right there with him bemoaning it. There's something to be said for the ability to concentrate for longer than 90 seconds. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I'm coming from the piano world, so I don't mind mazurkas, and some of them could be as Chopin's mazurka.
Yeah, the occasional violin salon piece. I love Chrysler, But yeah,
But Brahms didn't mean it that way. It's a novel.
There's a video that I actually have of Zigeunerlieder, which are originally for, I believe, mezzo and small choir and piano, but they were phenomenally transcribed by Benjamin Boyle for Bacchanalia, And I soloed with Bacchanalia, the orchestra. We'll talk about that a little. I soloed with them in New York at Merkin Hall. And those are Brahms, and those are short form, and they're lovely. I look forward to the next opportunity I have to play them. But yeah, if you have something as epic as a concerto, piano or violin, cello, if you have a concerto that you get to play with an orchestra, it's like being given a chance to film your own Lord of the Rings.
That's absolutely true.
That's an epic.
It is an epic. Now, I want to get the chance to ask you a ton of questions about the upcoming Laureates Ensemble program, and I can't wait to watch you lead that ensemble. Now, can you just give maybe a little bit of a description of your philosophy and how you plan to approach that intensive workshop? You're going to have the participants in there working with them for 2 full days, and then leading them onto the stage, which they probably have never played on and always were aspiring to.
I mean, when you and I discussed this, one of the things that really caught my imagination was this idea that instead of doing an entire summer festival, where you are there for 2 weeks, or in the case of some festivals, as much as 8 weeks, with daily lessons and rehearsals and so on. The idea of compacting as much of that as possible into a couple of days. It's first of all, it's unusual, so that's already attention grabbing. But I find it to be a real value for the time kind of thing. You get to do in a couple of days what ordinarily you might do, presumably in a couple of weeks.
But how do you think it's possible? How do you think it's going to be doable?
I think that there's a natural decay in learning. So when you're at a summer festival, for example, and you're at a rehearsal at 1:00 in the afternoon on Monday, and then you play for your coach at 4:00 in the afternoon on Wednesday. What happened between those two? You probably will have forgotten some things. Yes, the advantage in intense cramming is that you can retain more short term. The disadvantage, of course, is that the glow might fade, and people might be asking us to do another such event, in June or something. But yeah, I remember with a guilty conscience cramming for music history finals at Yale. And I learned everything in like 2 days. Of course, you can't ask me now what it was that I learned in those 2 days. But back then, I really got value for my time.
So this is a perfect program for all the crammers in the world, because which is probably 90% of musicians.
Exactly. No one procrastinates, right?
You can't procrastinate when you have 2 days to learn a 25-minute program, and you kind of facing the fear and all the responsibility. And
it's also a chamber orchestra that we're talking about, so it's not where you get to hide behind other players who are doing all the heavy lifting for you.
Exactly.
It's an enlarged ensemble, like a string quartet, made bigger rather than an orchestra made smaller.
Exactly. And I just want to give people an opportunity to hear you leading a small ensemble of soloists, the Bacchanalia. We have a glorious recording of you performing with them. And so you're speaking from the podium of personal experience of being with the group for a short time, preparing and then performing on a very important, prestigious stage. Let's hear that. Getting my applause to that. But there's definitely something to be said for the intensity when you come in for the short amount of time and you have a goal, you have a you have to produce a good ensemble playing, and that's why your program is called the All-Strings Laureate Ensemble Intensive Workshop in New York. And I know you also planned some additional events for musicians. So it's going to be, just tell us what your plan is. So rehearsals.
In addition to the rehearsals, there would be some lectures by a couple of guest speakers, sort of a seminar kind of setting. It remains to be seen whether logistics permit us to do something like a master class, perhaps with a visiting, VIP.
Well, you're the visiting VIP.
No, no.
I understand.
Sort of cherry on top of the sundae kind of thing.
Exactly.
But the goal of these couple of days is, the most simple goal is to present a program at Carnegie Recital Hall. But what goes into that goal and what goes into the growth that I very much hope every participant will experience is going to be more than just, 8 hours of rehearsing a day followed by collapsing and sleeping.
Followed by collapsing. So you don't expect them to collapse after they've worked with you for 8 hours.
I don't expect anyone to work for 8 hours. Including myself. I am a firm, my students will tell you this, I'm a firm adherent of, more practice does not necessarily make for better performance. If you are not efficient about your practicing, if you are not able to show a result after, 2-3 hours of practice, you're probably doing something wrong, right? So just throwing more of your time into something that is patently not, producing a result seems to me to be pointless. Of course, I say this to students, And I explain to them that by asking them to think, I'm asking them to actually work less. But as so often happens with teenagers especially, it doesn't fully register with them.
Well, with we will be able to witness you demonstrating it while you leading the group through the rehearsals and addressing the challenging parts in the repertoire. So, what are your plans for the repertoire?
One of the pieces I very much want to do is something that Bacchanalia premiered in 2020, right before the pandemic closed everything down. We did a sort of relaunch of Bacchanalia concert in memory of my mother, who had passed away 2 years prior, and who had started Bacchanalia. The piece that we premiered was the Bach Chaconne. Now, the Bach Chaconne was written in 1720, so how could we possibly premiere it? Well, the version that we played was the Busoni arrangement of the Chaconne, arranged for string orchestra by the leader of the Curtis String Quartet 70 years ago. It was meant to be premiered by Eugene Ormandy in Philadelphia, and there was a personal snafu, and it ended up just being put away into a desk drawer somewhere for 70 years.
Oh, wow.
Until I was really fortunate enough, through my very good friend Michael Avagliano, to get the score, and Bacchanalia performed it. Now, what I would love to do is to not, have to deal with a hastily put together performance on few rehearsals, but a lengthily put together performance on 2 days of rehearsals, but not, 2 hours.
Of course. Well, the musicians will have nearly 16 hours of time with you,
Precisely.
with your colleagues, and I imagine there probably will be some time for them to ask you questions about their own solo repertoire, about their practice habits, and maybe about some technical issues. I'm sure you'll have some time set aside for individual consultations as well, right?
I would love to do something like, a practice methods seminar. Like what kind of concepts are common to efficient practicers? What sort of things constitute just mindless repetition instead of, targeted specific improvement?
Absolutely. So, but you will expect the people who will be selected for your laureate ensemble to come prepared, of course, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the rule that I was taught, unfortunately too late, was that the rehearsal isn't there for you to learn your part. It's for you to learn everybody else's.
That's a good way to put it.
You come in knowing your part, and you figure out how you fit in something you cannot do by yourself in your own practice room. So yeah, the level of the participants also will be determined by the people who pass the auditions, who are performing. We are obviously intending for this to be challenging and fun and exciting. I have a loose kitten running around, so excuse me if you get some.
Okay, yeah, that's something I really wanted to ask you. A lot of people look up to you. You're a glorious performer. You're a well-known artist, and you're a pedagogue with a big name. So you kind of can be an intimidating figure to.
So I'm told.
Yes, but well, I know you're a very kind and supportive, caring musician, and I'm not intimidated by you, but many people are. So, what do you expect from people who will apply? What is your level of expectation? Do you expect them all to play like Bacchanalia musicians and yourself?
No, this is still a aspiring young players, growing young players kind of thing, or aspiring adult amateur players for that matter. I expect for the technical basics to be in place, because it's kind of pointless to talk about ensemble issues or interpretative issues when you're trying to explain to somebody, that's a C sharp, not a C natural. We want the basics to be in place, and that's what the auditions are for. We do not expect for people to come in as international competition winners. Those people have already had this experience or something very much like it. Some intensive master classes in Europe, perhaps. The aftermath of an international competition might have master classes. They would have had some intensive workshop experience, and they would have had performance experience. That said, that we're not expecting them to be international soloists. There are some basics that should be in place, or else people will find themselves basically the conversation being pitched above their level of understanding.
So that's important. But there will be an opportunity for auditionees to meet with you during the second live round. And would you allow people to ask you questions?
Oh, absolutely. I would encourage it. I would very much encourage it. I've always encouraged, I did this myself when I was competing. I encourage my students to do this. Get the feedback from the judges, if you can get feedback when you're auditioning for a conservatory, not a competition, a conservatory audition. If you can get feedback, which most conservatories won't offer you, think about how beneficial that could be. Because you might be striving to perfect something in one direction that goes completely unnoticed by judges, while overlooking something that is their,
point of focus.
Yeah, exactly. Their central.
Exactly. Yeah, and I just want to underscore that everyone can apply with a video, and then based on the video pre-screening, people will be invited to live audition. And during that live audition, you all will be able to meet Mr. Chudnovsky, and he'll be your judge for that audition, and you'll be able to bounce your ideas off his feedback and find out what you can do better.
One of the things that I've loved about virtual concert halls and Sound Espressivo competitions is this immediate feedback. From the very basic level to the very advanced, even somebody who is very advanced would probably benefit from saying, I really love this, and realizing that this other thing that they had spent all their time and energy on went unremarked. I just had a couple of students competing in a local competition, and when they got the judges' sheets back, I realized what had been happening. The judges had probably been told, you must be supportive, you must be positive, don't say anything. And I'm looking at a sheet for a contestant who got a high grade but did not get a placement. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why? Fine, it's a high grade. Why this high not higher? Why this high not lower? Because every comment is positive. That's not helpful either, I find.
There has to be positive criticism.
Yes, exactly. What is it that you did not like? What is it that stopped you from voting for this person?
And what do you think can be improved and how?
Yeah, I remember also one of my very advanced, very driven, ambitious, talented students when she made it to the final round of the Music Teachers National Association, and that was the year it was in Las Vegas. I opted to go with her and her family to see how the whole thing unfolded. And she did not win. The girl who did win, and then subsequently went on to win the menuhin competition, was absolutely fabulous. Played, La Campanella, played it, at an international competition level. So after all of this was concluded, I said to my student, listen, why don't we go and talk to one of the judges? I think I know, and I think you know why it was that she won and you did not. But I'd like to hear their takeaway. And the judge... I'm sure, thinking of being very kind to a teenager and so on, he was talking very nicely, very sweetly. He flat out refused to tell her anything negative. And I was saying to him, listen, you're not going to hurt her feelings, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I would like to have an insight into your thinking. What was it that appealed to you? What was it that did not appeal to you? Especially, what was it that did not appeal to you? Right? So I am not going to hold back criticism. I'm going to try to make it as prosaic as possible. I'm not going to go into flights of fancy, but I'm going to criticize what made me not like something as much as I could have otherwise.
And that's priceless. And throughout the rehearsals and workshops and presentations and lectures and all the consultations and masterclasses, which are all packed into those very intensive 2 days of the Laureate Ensemble program in New York, you will hear unfiltered, real-time criticism from no other but Emil Chudnovsky. And let's hear him.
Not only criticism, I might praise.
Well, of course, all of it. And it's going to be direct, it's going to be transparent, and so you will be able to take away not only the experience of rehearsing with a group and working with Emil and his colleagues, but also, I suggest take notes. That's what I do.
Yes.
Because, like you said, you crammed that course exam and now you can't remember what it was. But if you had taken notes, you could revisit it. So taking notes is allowed. We're not meant to be, we're like remembering every word.
Data recovery machines.
No, we have. That's why we invent them, right? So we don't have to keep all the data in our memory. I want to play one more of your performances, and this actually is going to give everyone a little bit of insight into the intimate setting of Emil Chudnovsky and his violin. Extraordinary. And yeah, everyone who comes to New York to work with Emil will be working with this kind of playing close up. So you can really come up to him and say, well, how did you do this? Holding and pizzicato. And any question. Emil is really one of the kindest and most accessible great artists I've ever met in my life. And thank you for being so open to work with anyone who's aspiring to learn, aspiring to grow. You really have that great support.
The one thing, I have people asking to come and join the studio, and they're under the impression that they have to pass some sort of a test or something. The one thing that I ask for is for the student to basically be involved, right? Somebody who sort of just stands there like a lump, and I feel like I'm talking to myself. Any explanation just gets not disregarded out of spite or stubbornness, but out of just sheer non-engagement. That's the thing that makes me upset. That's the thing that I don't really want to accept anymore.
But still, let's go over a few logistics and facts. Will you be just focusing on accepting young musicians, let's say high school or college? So what's the people who you would like to see in this ensemble?
I think you and I talked about this a little bit. I like the idea very much of having adult amateurs alongside, aspiring young players.
That's unusual. Usually the amateurs kind of being segregated from the rest of people, and you're very inclusive, yeah.
But there are other programs that do something like this. There was summer trios in Pennsylvania, programs where amateurs play alongside professionals, which is still different. those amateurs tend to be, first of all, of course, adult. In many cases, they are incredibly accomplished professionals in their field. So it's for the professional, in that case it was me, to remember that this person who is playing not very well is nonetheless the highest ranked, the highest rated, whatever in their field. It begins to be a little bit of a cognitive stretch. But to have, let's say, a 40-something former violinist playing alongside a 16-year-old hopeful violinist to be, I think can only benefit both of them. We don't want to have just one person from some age category feeling like they're not in the right room. So we want to get a balance. If there are going to be applicants who are really superb, who are, I don't know, teenagers, and a few amateurs who are, let's say, they were professionals, but they are no longer. Virtual concert halls and sound espressivo and progressive musicians, we will all work together to make sure that the final ensemble is one that feels organic.
You're one of those musicians who are always groundbreaking and stretching the limits of everything. It's very unusual because, it's more customary for people to be segregated in some way or another, and especially in their thin age group slice. And I'm on the same page with you. I agree that for young musicians and for young people in general, being always segregated within their grade level, their college level, and only have an interaction with someone 15, 20 years different from their age within the family, it becomes a bit limited. So this is a great opportunity for people to expand in many ways as musicians and also as people, because they will be working together more like a workplace where you have people of different generations learning how to communicate with each other.
It's a team, really. What a chamber orchestra is, like I said before, it's an enlarged chamber group. And what is a chamber group if not a team? Yeah, they will... this is not something that I think that I will have to do. They will find themselves, by virtue of being in the same rehearsal room, by virtue of playing the same repertoire, and preparing for the same concert. I think they will find their commonality.
Mm-hmm. Well, music is a very cohesive, a very, very great tool to make people leveler and to bring people together. And music is a community voice. It always exists within community and feeds from people adding their voices to it. That's the best way to best field, best environment to be inclusive.
Yeah, I agree completely. When I say also leveler, there's a contradiction there, of course. Because excellence is nowhere as obvious as in music. You have, an audience of non-musicians listening to two players, one of whom is extraordinary and one of whom is frankly substandard. I don't think that there's going to be a real debate among that audience about who is who. The debates come when there are two people who are, or more, who are both excellent, but you prefer vanilla ice cream and I prefer strawberry ice cream. You prefer Oystrock, I prefer Heifetz. But that kind of debate isn't really a debate. That's just an explanation for what it is that you love about so-and-so.
That's right.
While this other person is just as, remarkable, just as extraordinary, but may not fit your palate for either in general or for a particular period or style.
And just one more thing I wanted to bring up. You mentioned that you are planning to maybe even bring a violin maker into the program and hopefully show musicians that side of playing violin, because that's a whole other conversation. That'll be part 2 of our conversation about the Laureate Ensemble. But I think that's a great opportunity for musicians, especially if they're traveling with the cellos, and maybe they'll be able to even rent an instrument while in New York from a very famous violin shop, right?
I think that sort of remains to be solidified. So I don't want to
Promise too much, yeah.
promise too much, but I think it is essential for string players to know what it is that's involved in their instrument. It boggles my mind when I see somebody who isn't aware that their bow needs to be loosened before being put in the case, because being under constant tension is bad for Pernambuco. But no one bothered to explain it to them, along all the time that they spent, learning their instrument, and all of a sudden they found themselves with a snapped bow. So yeah, I would love to have something where there is a kind of crash course is the wrong word, but it's the only one I can think of right now.
Well, in intensive workshop. Maybe like a 45-minute meeting with you have so many contacts in New York, so that'll be incredible. You've spent many years working in New York.
I grew up in New York, but still, so much of the violin business that involves repairs, that involves buying instruments, selling instruments. So much of that does take place in New York. That of course, yes, there are many contacts. I would love to have someone come by and show people a cello in the midst of being worked on, so that they can take a good look inside and see how this extraordinary thing called a stringed instrument is put together.
Yeah. Let's do a quick overview of the program on our website so people know how to find the information and where to look for it. If we can please bring that on the screen. So this is the announcement of the Laureate Ensemble intensive workshop in New York with music director Emil Chudnovsky. The intensive workshop is happening on April 1st through 5th of 2024, and that's this spring. Here you'll find all the important dates. The applications are due on December 1, which is about a month from now, and you only need to apply with any video of your performance for the video pre-screening round. People who will pass the pre-screening round will be invited to audition live and to meet Maestro Chudnovsky in person during the live virtual audition. You don't have to travel for that. Anywhere you can audition from the comfort of your home. And those auditions will be broadcast live on many platforms, so you will gain some visibility as well. Here is the application. Yeah, go ahead.
We should stress that the initial application and the video recording for it does not need to be a professionally done video. This is just to establish a very accurate idea of your overall level.
Exactly. Just to make sure that you are equipped to be able to work in the intensive environment like this, to prepare the repertoire with Emil, which he chose for this program, and that you will feel really comfortable in that kind of setting and program. The application process is described in detail in here, and you can hit the button apply, and there is a very short application form where you just need to provide your contact information and your upload your video, basically, so we can basic information, so we can get back in touch with you with an announcement whether or not you were invited to audition in live. And further, you can see more information about Emil Chudnovsky, his bio, and links to his performances if you would like to learn more about him. And he's a very open person. Emil, I've known you for years, so get in touch with him personally.
Would you like to tell them about how many people we are looking to see on that stage?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the ensemble is capped at 20 people. So that's not a small number, but not a huge number as well. So there, we expect that there's going to be some, of course, competing for those slots. But apply early. Well, that's what I always tell people, and my students including. Apply early. That demonstrates your true dedication to the program, true interest, and as Emil said many times, your motivation and your interest to grow together with him and his program and other colleagues is a very important point, because nobody wants their energy and their work wasted on indifferent or on really, people who are not that much into it.
If you don't want to be there, you don't have to.
Right? Exactly. So we're looking for people who really want to be there, and of course people who can handle the load and the intensity of the work. And I want to also show people what else is coming up. We have a lot of programs coming up in this season. Emil, please don't go away yet. I know you have only 14 minutes left, and we have 13 minutes left on this broadcast max, but we'll finish by then, I promise. So we have a lot of programs coming up, and Emil Chudnovsky All-Strings Laureate Ensemble is one of the two which will be presented during the April. And let's see the overview of those programs. We have cello choir and laureate ensemble. Those are laureate ensembles. Cello choir led by John Kaboff, and of course all-string ensemble led by Emil Chudnovsky. Then in June we have a repeat of the same program, basically the same setup, and we will have flute choir, which will be led by Rita D'Arcangelo, coming from Berlin for us for that. We will also have voice ensemble. We will have, again, all-strings ensemble, which will be led by Kelly Hall Tompkins, also a New York violinist. We'll have castanets ensemble as well, and the leader of the Madrid castanets ensemble is coming to New York to work with. So if you play castanets, consider applying for that one. And we will also have a guitar ensemble led by Julio Reis on that program in June. Then we also have a program where we present soloists who will perform with orchestras in different countries. So you apply again with a video, then
whole orchestra
on the live virtual stage, and then well, I probably should just stop right there because we have a short trailer to show you all.
Cold Orchestra is back.
Our new season of auditions for classical musicians is now available. Performance opportunities for students, young professionals, and seasoned artists.
Perform a concerto with orchestras around the world. We have 4 orchestras this season. Perform with orchestras throughout the US, Czechia, and Egypt. New this season, opportunities for composers to have their orchestral works recorded by the Boulder Symphony Orchestra, mastered and distributed on the world's most known music streaming platforms.
Audition live from the comfort of your own home. Get live evaluations from expert judges and expand your online presence through our international internet broadcasts. Additional award and performance opportunities are also available. Visit our website for full details. Don't miss out on these wonderful opportunities to advance as a musician and perform on a world-renowned stage. We look forward to hearing your performances.
And of course, when people apply for the Carnegie Laureate ensembles or for to perform solo or with the orchestra at the Carnegie Galas, you receive a whole performance package to help you with your study and with your applications for various grants and scholarships. So there are medals, there are certificates, and other items of recognition, and we also provide letters of recommendation and a lot of other helpful things and support. Please make sure you visit the website to see the detailed descriptions. There are also season awards, and I would like to draw your attention to that. The very first one you see there is for higher level students or professionals, because that award is sponsors you in your recording and production of an album. So you get a 10 years distribution contract with the Cicerone Music and Arts. You will travel to Italy and record an album, and that album will be promoted and published on all the audio platforms. And there's 3 of those awards provided to us and sponsored by Cicerone Music and Arts. And while I was talking about Cicerone Music and Arts and the album, you saw dozens and dozens of other awards sponsored and provided to us for this season by many countries and music organizations from around the world. How to get those awards? To be eligible for any of those awards, you don't need to apply to every single one of our auditions. Just one is enough, because every judges panel, which is adjudicating every one of the auditions or competitions throughout the season, has a list of the awards, and judges recommend musicians from every one of the auditions to be considered as candidates for those awards. And then the lists of candidates are given to the companies which are sponsoring the awards, and they make final determination. And finally, I want to draw your attention to the Beethoven series, which we launched this Sunday, just yesterday. Was the very first of the films dedicated to the Magnificent Nine. Those films were produced over the past 2.5 years. We worked together with many people, with the Architects of Music in the organization in Boston, and with the directors and producers and authors of those films. Those are absolutely beautiful films and stories narrated by Lawrence Rabchak, who was the pre-concert lecturer for many years for the Chicago Symphony. And we are presenting them in chapters, and I just don't want to give out too much. If you missed yesterday's broadcast, it's no big deal, because that broadcast is available on demand. You can go to any platforms and see the first one dedicated to the first chapter of the Beethoven Symphony 5. And yes, we are on every audio and video and social media platform. You can always type in virtual concert halls or Sound Expressive or Progressive Musicians, and you'll find all those programs there. We are live daily. The guests in our daily music around the world and music and musicians around the world on our daily live show are open to respond to any questions and comments, just like Emil Chudnovsky, who is my guest today. Get in touch with us, get in touch with them. Everyone is looking to connect with you and to make more collaborations, to be helpful and to support each other in making great music. Now let's thank Virtual Concert Hall's fabulous team of wonderful people who are musicians themselves and helping us produce these programs, these films, and these wonderful events in various venues, including Carnegie Hall. Emil, we're back. Thank you for your patience. I know you're ready to go to the next thing. We're running out of time, but yes.
The next thing is just a coffee, so...
Oh, okay.
Forgive me if I'm feeling a little...
That's right. But I just want to give you a few minutes or seconds to wrap up our program. We're coming to the end. What would you like to, your message to the future applicants to your intensive workshop for Laureate Ensemble at the Carnegie Hall?
Try your hand. That's my message. You are not going to find yourself in person. You're not going to find yourself in a situation that is outside of your comfort zone. You're going to be with people in the same, roughly the same category as you, as far as players. Excuse me. With the same goal, by definition, the goal of presenting a program at Carnegie, following a crash course instead of during the summer, a crash course in the spring.
Wonderful. Thank you, Emil, for joining our programs. Thank you for all you do for musicians and for us, for our program. And you've been our judge. We can always call you and ask you to help. So this has been wonderful to have you as part of my group of friends and as part of our colleagues working together on these programs.
Absolutely. And we should tell people that they really ought to stay tuned, because there's developments, given how active Anna is on an hourly, not just daily basis. You really ought to sort of check in with the channel on a regular basis as well, because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yes, we have lots of news coming in on a daily basis, and thank you. Yes, we would like to encourage everyone to stay in touch with us and get involved, join our movement. We have a lot of great people working together towards better future and better music. Thank you all so much, and I want to thank our audience, and I want to give great thanks and applause to James Welch, who has been directing this program today for us and doing all the tech on the back end and managing the screen. And James is a pianist, a conductor, director of shows, and a wonderful colleague of ours. Thank you, James, and thank you, team, and thank you, partners. Thank you, everyone. We'll be saying goodbye now. See you tomorrow.
A domani.